Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
A bombshell kidnap Jules Genoa City to its core as Jack Abbott and Matt Clark make the most unbelievable move of their lives. They choke Victor Newman and abduct him, setting off a chain response that no bone sees coming and rewriting the power structure of the young and the restless ever. Because this isn't just an act of despair, it's a advised strike born from treason, rage, and the intimidating consummation that Victor has eventually gone too far. And it all begins on a stormy night when Victor believes he's won yet another silent palm, smugly assuming his adversaries have been annulled, ignorant that Jack and Matt have formed a secret alliance forged in participated fury, collective loss, and the inarguable verity that Victor's manipulation has destroyed too numerous lives, pushed too numerous boundaries, and crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, because Jack Abbott, once the moral compass of Genoa City, has been driven to a breaking point after discovering irrefragable evidence that Victor orchestrated a waterfall of events designed to strike Chabot from the inside, sabotage Jack's leadership, and weaponize people Jack loves against him, while Matt Clark, formerly deranged by guilt, despair, and the knowledge that Victor used him as a disposable pawn, realizes that Victor no way intended to let him walk down alive, that he was always meant to be silenced, cancelled, or offered if effects went awry. And when Jack confronts Matt in a dimly lit storehouse awaiting violence but rather finds a man on the edge of collapse, the verity spills out in broken fractions, raw admissions, and bitter gashes, revealing how Victor constrained, hovered, and manipulated Matt into carrying out dirty work under the pledge of protection that was no way real. And as the pieces click into place, Jack sees the bigger picture with horrifying clarity. Victor didn't just target Chabot, he targeted families, marriages, children, and lives, and in that moment Jack realizes that going to the police would no way work because Victor always stays three-way ahead, always has influence, always owns the narrative. And that's when the unbelievable idea forms. Rumored at first, also spoken audibly, Victor Newman must be stopped, not exposed, not hovered, but removed from the board entirely, at least temporarily, and Matt, shaking but resolute, agrees because he knows this may be the only way to survive. The only way to reclaim control from a man who has treated him like a tool, and together they draft a plan so bold and dangerous that it feels fantastic, targeting Victor at his most vulnerable moment, when indeed his fabulous security is relaxed. During a private meeting meant to solidify another power heist, and the pressure is suffocating as Jack lures Victor under false pretenses, masking his fury behind calm professionalism, knowing that one wrong move could bring everything, while Matt waits in the murk, adrenaline pumping, visited by the faces of everyone Victor has destroyed. And when Victor eventually arrives, confident and dismissive, delivering his usual taunts about how Jack always loses and how people like Matt are weak, disposable, and predictable commodity snaps, because as Victor turns his reverse, Jack makes the move that no bone in Genoa City would ever anticipate. He lunges, locking his arm around Victor's neck, his grip pulsing at first before tensing with grim resoluteness, while Matt rushes by, aiding, choking Victor until the Goliath of Genoa City struggles, gasps, and eventually collapses unconscious, the moment stretching in horrifying silence as Jack gapes down at Victor's motionless body, realizing that there's no turning back now, that history has just been rewritten in a single breathless act. And as fear threatens to overwhelm them, Matt reminds Jack of what Victor would do if the places were reversed, and that brands Jack's jitters enough to bind Victor, load him into a vehicle, and vanish into the night, driving a seismic shockwave across Genoa City when Victor fails to show up for critical meetings, fails to answer calls, and vanishes without explanation, transferring Nikki into a curl of fear and dubitation. Because she knows Victor has adversaries but also knows that only commodity disastrous could keep him silent, while Nick senses commodity deeply wrong, Sharon picking up on the turnabout of dread, Victoria growing decreasingly frantic as she discovers gaps in Victor's security logs that don't add up, and meanwhile Jack wrestles with crushing guilt and terror as Victor awakens in prison, furious, subdued, and merely beyond words, unleashing poisonous pitfalls, promising destruction, swearing that Jack has inked his own death leave. But Jack doesn't blench because for the first time in times Victor isn't untouchable, isn't in control, isn't decreeing the terms. And as the days pass, the cerebral warfare intensifies, with Victor trying to manipulate Jack the same way he manipulates everyone differently, invoking family, heritage, and twisted morality. while Matt battles his own demons, visited by what he's done but also empowered by the fact that Victor can no longer hurt him or anyone differently, at least not right now. And the stakes shoot when Nikki begins asking the wrong questions. When Nick traces Victor's last known movements dangerously close to Jack. When Kyle senses his father is hiding commodity monumental. And when Victoria uncovers surveillance footage that shows Jack's auto near Victor's last position, forcing Jack to defy the possibility that this hijacking could destroy not only his adversary but his entire family. Yet despite the fear, Jack refuses to release Victor because he knows the moment Victor regains freedom he'll avenge with surgical perfection, destroying Matt, annihilating Jack, and tearing piecemeal anyone who stood in his way. And Victor, realizing brute force won't work, shifts tactics, planting seeds of mistrustfulness, reminding Jack of who he used to be, criminating him of getting everything he hates, and for a moment Jack wavers, questioning whether this act has crossed an insupportable line. But also Victor lets slip a nipping concession, admitting he'd have killed Matt without vacillation, admitting he'd have crushed Jabot fully, admitting that mercy was no way part of the equation, and that concession becomes Jack's grim defense, the evidence he needs to see this through. Indeed, as Genoa City descends into chaos, alliances deteriorate, secrets face, and the power vacuum left by Victor's exposure sparks ruthless maneuvering, with rivals circling like harpies, the Newman family fracturing under the strain, and everyone seeing that commodity monumental is unfolding just beneath the face, commodity that will explode the moment the verity comes out, and when Victor eventually realizes that Jack isn't bluffing, that this isn't a temporary dread tactic but a hopeless shot to neutralize him. His fury turns cold and calculating because Victor Newman always survives, always adapts, and always strikes back, and the question brewing over Genoa City isn't whether Victor will escape. It's who'll pay the ultimate price when he does, because this stunner hijacking isn't just a shocking twist. It's the morning of a war that will leave no family untouched, no alliance complete, and no character unchanged, proving formerly and for all that in the young and the restless, power is no way given, it's taken, and occasionally the most shocking villains are the icons pushed too far. The agony only escalates from there, because the longer Victor Newman remains interned, the more dangerously unstable the entire megacity of Genoa City becomes, and Jack Abbott can feel the walls closing in as every news alert, every rumored scuttlebutt, and every panicked phone call chips down at the fragile control he and Matt Clark are slightly maintaining, since Victor's absence has created a power vacuum so massive that it's stinking everyone into its gravitational pull, and Nikki's terror morphs into raw determination as she begins retracing Victor's last way with a clarity stoned by fear, while Nick grows decreasingly reckless, convinced that his father has been ambuscaded by someone near, someone who knew Victor's routines too well, and Victoria, torn between dread and fury, still mobilizes her own coffers, refusing to stay for answers that may no way come, all while Jack is visited by the knowledge that every hour Victor stays hidden increases the chance that someone innocent will be caught in the fallout, because Victor isn't just a man. He's a cornerstone holding up an entire loose structure, and removing him sends cracks contending through everything he touched. And those cracks begin to resolve wide open when Adam Newman returns to Genoa City seeing blood in the water, incontinently suspecting that Victor's exposure is no accident, and that someone eventually dared to cross a line no bone differently ever would, and Adam's suspicion sends a bite down Jack's chine because Adam is changeable, grim, and dangerously perceptive, and as Jack struggles to keep up appearances at Jabot, forcing grins and dodging questions from Kyle, Diane, and the board, Matt spirals under the cerebral weight of what they've done, pacing endlessly, snapping at Merc, induced that Victor's men are closing in, that every sound is the morning of the end, and Victor, locked away but far from defeated, studies every weakness, every vacillation, every crack in their resoluteness, using silence as an armament, also unforeseen outbursts, also chilling calm, reminding Jack that he knows him better than anyone, that Jack has always demanded to see himself as the good Joe, and that this hijacking will rot him from the inside out, poisoning everything he touches, and when Victor casually mentions Kyle's name, also Diane's, also Nikki's, intimating that indeed in prison his influence still stretches far beyond those walls, Jack's resoluteness is tested to its breaking point, because the consummation hits hard. Victor Newman doesn't need freedom to be dangerous, and that verity terrifies Jack more than anything differently, and the situation reaches a boiling point when Victoria confronts Jack directly, her eyes sharp, her voice calm but murderous, laying out particular substantiation piece by piece until Jack knows she's near to the verity than anyone differently. And though she doesn't charge him outright, the warning is unmistakable: if Victor is being held against his will, she'll tear Genoa City piecemeal to find him. And after she leaves, Jack collapses into a precedent, shaking, realizing that the plan that formerly felt necessary is now twisting beyond control. Yet Matt refuses to back down, averring that releasing Victor now would be self-murder, reminding Jack of Victor's concession, of the lives he'd have destroyed without an alternate. Study, and Matt's despair grows when he receives a cryptic communication suggesting that someone from Victor's inner circle is formerly smelling around old Clark connections, meaning the net is tensing whether they act or not. And as paranoia pustules, alliances strain, and tempers flare, Victor shifts strategy formally again, offering Jack a deal so shocking it nearly stops Jack's heart. Victor will walk down, strike his attack on Jabot, and spare Matt fully if Jack lets him go, and for a transitory moment the offer tempts Jack, because it promises an end to the chaos, a return to normality, a chance to undo the damage. But deep down Jack knows the verity that has always defined Victor Newman: his word means nothing when power is at stake. And when Jack refuses, Victor's eyes harden with a look that pledges unconceivable retribution, a silent oath that this treason will be repaid tenfold. And that oath becomes terrifyingly real when Nikki receives an anonymous communication containing a single expression Victor uses only in extremities, attesting that he's alive and being held, kindling a disagreement that brings the Newman family together in a rare, united front, pooling coffers, calling in favors, and still preparing for war, while Jack and Matt realize they're running out of time, because the megacity is no longer simply suspicious, it's marshalling, and the pressure reaches a breaking point when Adam corners Matt suddenly, speaking in mysteries, intimating that Victor tutored him one assignment above all others: follow the fear, because fear always leads to the verity. And Matt knows also that escape is ineluctable, that Victor's freedom is no longer a question of if but when, and the final twist comes when Jack uncovers substantiation that Victor anticipated this script long agone, having contingency plans for his own exposure that are now cranking automatically, transferring power, driving fiscal traps, and unleashing chaos across Genoa City without Victor lifting a cutlet, proving that indeed in chains Victor Newman is still playing chess while everyone differently is scrabbling to survive. And Jack is forced to defy the most ruinous consummation of all, that hijacking Victor didn't stop the monster. It may have eventually unleashed him, setting the stage for an explosive reckoning that will shatter families, destroy patrimonies, and ensure that when Victor Newman returns, the war he stipend will make everything that came ahead look like a warning shot rather than the main event. The fallout deepens into commodity far darker and further unrecoverable as Genoa City crosses the point of no return. Because Victor Newman's prison has come more than a secret crime, it's now the unnoticeable machine driving chaos, fear, and treason through every corner of city, and Jack Abbott can feel his world cracking under the pressure as the weight of what he's done begins to poison indeed the lowest moments of normality. Every smile at Jabot feeling concave, every discussion with Kyle edged with implied terror, because Jack knows that no matter how precisely he plans, no matter how tightly he clings to control, Victor's shadow is still far and wide, manipulating issues, kindling conflicts, and turning abettors against one another without ever stepping into the light. And that verity becomes horrifyingly clear when Newman Enterprises suddenly launches a ruthless, automated commercial counterattack against Jabot, draining coffers, driving suits, and exposing vulnerabilities Jack didn't indeed know was, all executed through fail-safe directives Victor set in stir long before his exposure, attesting that this wasn't just paranoia. Victor truly planned for everything, including his own hijacking, and Matt Clark, formerly unraveling, spirals further as he realizes that indeed choking Victor and locking him down didn't free him from Victor's grip, didn't silence the voice in his head reminding him that he was no way further than a disposable asset, and that voice grows louder when Victor calmly explains from prison that Matt's fate was sealed the moment he chose to betray him, because Victor doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, and doesn't allow loose ends, and Jack watches helplessly as Matt's resoluteness fractures into reckless despair, pushing him to suggest decreasingly extreme measures to keep Victor contained, measures that make Jack flinch because he recognizes the intimidating pitch they're sliding down, the gradational metamorphosis from hopeless men trying to stop a dictator into commodity far more dangerous, commodity indistinguishable from the villain they detest. And while Jack wrestles with that moral collapse, the Newman family tightens its grip on Genoa City, With Nikki using social influence, Nick working the merc, Victoria orchestrating perfection moves behind unrestricted doors, and Adam acting as the wild card no bone can prognosticate, still feeding misinformation, testing responses, and narrowing the list of suspects with agitating delicacy, until the walls around Jack and Matt begin to close faster than either of them anticipated. And the pressure explodes when Kyle confronts Jack after discovering inconsistencies in his father's timeline, his voice shaking with unbelief as he demands to know what Jack is hiding, forcing Jack into the most painful taradiddle of his life, one that fractures trust, and leaves Kyle questioning everything he allowed. He knew about the man who raised him, and that fracture becomes another crack Victor exploits, because from prison Victor subtly feeds Jack cerebral bane, reminding him that he's destroying his own heritage far more effectively than Victor ever could, that history won't flashback Jack as a idol who stopped a monster but as a man who crossed a line he could no way step back from, and the cruel brilliance of Victor's strategy is revealed when Adam eventually uncovers enough to confirm. Victor was taken by someone who believed they were acting out of justice, not rapacity or ambition, narrowing dubitation, directly toward Jack Abbott, the one man in Genoa City who has both motive and the tortured heart to justify such an act. And as Adam begins still circling Jack, dropping unsettling hints and cryptic warnings, Matt panics and insists they move Victor again, deeper underground, further off the grid. But Jack hesitates because every move increases the threat of exposure and escalates the crime beyond anything he can explain, and that vacillation proves expensive when Victor orchestrates a medical exigency from prison, collapsing suddenly, heaving for breath, forcing Jack into a horrifying dilemma: save Victor and threat discovery, or let him suffer and come commodity Jack can no way live with. And Jack's choice to intermediate, to call for help through untraceable channels, becomes the crack Victor needs, because indeed in apparent weakness Victor gathers information, observes patterns, memorizes voices and identifies routes of escape, proving that his most dangerous armament has no way been his strength but his mind, and the moment Victor stabilizes, his calm certainty sends a bite through Jack because Victor knows now, knows Jack won't let him die, knows Jack's humanity is the key to his eventual freedom, and that consummation breaks commodity inside Jack, because it confirms the worst verity of all: Jack's can't win this, not without immolating everything he believes in, and the pressure reaches an unsupportable peak when Victoria eventually confronts Matt directly, her presence icy and controlled, laying a trap with surgical perfection that exposes Matt's fear, his guilt, and his unraveling reason. And Matt realizes too late that Victor trained his children well, that they're just as grim, just as strategic, and just as enduring. And when Matt flees, driving a chain of events that draws attention exactly where Jack least wants it, the wind-up begins, because Genoa City is now laboriously hunting for Victor, and every step Jack and Matt take only tightens the mesh, and in a ruinous twist Victor reveals his final card. Evidence that he recorded a concession from Matt long agone. A contingency designed to destroy him if he ever stepped out of line, and that concession, if released, would not only end Matt's life in Genoa City but interlace Jack as well, tying them both to crimes far worse than hijacking. And Jack realizes with sickening clarity that Victor has turned their boldest act into his ultimate armament, flipping the script so fully that the convicts are now the trapped bones. And as enchantresses echo noiselessly in the distance, alliances fracture, trust defeats, and the megacity braces for impact, Jack is forced to face the final, ruinous question that will define everything that comes next: how do you master a man who has formerly planned your downfall before you ever dared to fight back? Because in The Young and the Restless, the most dangerous moment isn't when the villain is taken down, it's when he proves he was no way truly helpless at each, setting the stage for a reckoning that promises no clean palms, no icons without blood on their hands, and no escape from the consequences that are eventually, inescapably, about to come crashing down.